You say that strategically your number one priority is your relationship with Australia. I'd love to know what your relationship is like with our current Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese.
Yeah, look, I mean, my job is to work with all leaders across all countries, but no doubt about it, Australia is our number one strategic priority, and it's our key relationship because Australia is our only ally. I have a great relationship with Anthony Albanese. He's someone I actually knew in my former life when he was a minister in Australia and I was CEO of Air New Zealand. Our job is to get on and actually work together because there's so much that we have in common, and we are like-minded countries with values that we stand up for and we need to represent in our region. So it's in both of our interests that we have a strong relationship there. What I'm wanting to do with Australia is three things. One is to make sure that our security and defence connections are deepened. That means that we want to increasingly be a force multiplier and be much more interoperable in the defence space with the Australians. The second thing is we partner in the Pacific Islands nations a lot in the Pacific. It's our backyard, it's our family, and it's important that we work together constructively with Pacific Island partners as well. And then thirdly, it's around saying, look, there is a big common economic market between the two of us, and there's probably opportunities for us to reframe that and actually look for more economic opportunities as well. So good personal relationship, important that we can get on with each other at a personal level, but importantly advance things that are in both Australia and New Zealand's interests.
Yeah, particularly given the state of the world at the moment, and China is obviously a big one, a big part of that. You recently called out China publicly, re a cyber attack, which is quite rare for New Zealand. How do you balance, and this is really difficult to do, I know, how do you balance standing up for your values, which differ to China's, just like a lot of Australian values differ to China, whilst also maintaining a relationship that you desperately need?
Yeah, look, it's been a long-standing and complex relationship for the last 50 years, and there's no doubt about it. China is an undeniable force in global politics, and that actually will shape global affairs and standings in the world. For us, we look at it very clearly, which is that we have strong cooperation in areas where there is common and mutual interest around trade, around climate, around our people-to-people links, particularly through tourism and through students. We do have acknowledged that we have different political cultures, histories, and systems. That creates divergent views and therefore differences of opinion. What we will do always is present those issues in a predictable and consistent way, publicly or privately, with the Chinese. And that's been the nature of our conversations with them. And so you saw us call out recently, Chinese cyber attacks on New Zealand's parliamentary system, unacceptable, and we're very comfortable to do that. And then obviously we have an independent foreign policy, as do 195 other countries, all acting in our respective national interests. But we cooperate with like-minded countries where we think our common interests can be advanced as well. So, that's the lens by which we look at that relationship with China in terms of acknowledging it's important and it's long-standing, but we are very clear and predictable and consistent on the differences that we have with them.
Yeah, China's becoming increasingly hostile when it comes to AUKUS, of course. I mean, that was expected, but you're very supportive of that, it would seem. How involved do you want to be? Do you want your country to be in AUKUS?
Well, the first thing I'd say is I think AUKUS is actually very good for regional security and stability, and I think that's a good thing for the broader Indo-Pacific region. We, as I said, are very open to exploring New Zealand's involvement in what's called Pillar 2 of AUKUS. That is a position that is held by the previous administration as well, and here in New Zealand. Again, it's been somewhat undefined. It's only in recent weeks that the pathway for a conversation has really been able to be opened up. And of course, our officials will continue to work with the partners of AUKUS over the coming months and through the course of the year to see where there's opportunities for New Zealand to be involved in that. But, what's very clear to us in New Zealand and with our foreign policy reset has been to say, look, the Indo-Pacific region is where our national interests lie. And our national interests comprise of both security interests and also, economic interests. And increasingly, economic and security interests go hand in hand. If we don't have a strong, stable, secure region, we get instability, and that puts economic prosperity at risk. Equally, if we cannot create economic prosperity across the region, we end up causing instability, which then puts our security at risk. So, that's the way that my new government's thinking about our role in the world, and we are wanting to step up big time the engagement and energy and the depth of partnerships with all countries throughout the region.
You have some significant challenges with education in your country. We've got our own here as well. I don't think they're as dire as yours, but you seem to be pushing back against kind of woke ideology and refocusing on maths, English, just back to basics. Is that what you're planning to do? That's how it looks from here.
You're exactly right. I mean, education is the great leveler, right? I mean, it enables kids to get from a set of circumstances to a better set of circumstances. And I'm an example of that as well. And so, that's the thing in the 3 years that I've had in politics that has alarmed me the most. We've got two big challenges here in New Zealand. One is that regular school attendance is at an all-time low, and I want kids back at school and attending regularly. So we've got a big goal around getting 80% of our kids into regular school attendance, which means showing up 90% of the term. And that's our stated now better public service target that I'm expecting the Ministry of Education and the ministers in education to drive towards. And the second thing is actually getting our kids taught well so that when they arrive at high school, we want 80% of them be ready and at curriculum. And then currently it's about 50%. So we've done several things. First thing is we've banned mobile phones all across the schools, across primary and intermediate schools, and all schools actually, and secondary schools across New Zealand. We did that immediately within the first few days. We've mandated an hour of maths, an hour of writing, an hour of reading in our primary and intermediate schools. Just yesterday, we talked about the fact that we're going to mandate something called structured literacy, which is actually one common approach to teaching our kids to read through using phonics and sounds to old school way. But we want them to teach the basics well and brilliantly. And that means that's our focus, because if we can get our kids arriving at high school ready to go and then having good advanced learning through high school, setting them up for a good future, at the end of the day, Erin, good education gets people from bad circumstances to better circumstances. It also importantly gets them to be able to access higher paying jobs. That grows our economy. We've got a bigger economy. We can invest more in public services and improving the quality of those too.
Prime Minister, I dropped out of university 6 times, so I feel completely unqualified to comment on that aspect of it, but it sounds like you're doing a brilliant job. Before I let you go, last question. It's essentially law in both of our countries to hate each other's sporting teams, and I'd love to know which Australian sporting team you hate the most. And I know that Usman Khawaja made some comments that got you in a little bit of trouble, so it could be the cricket team, or is it the Wallabies, or are the Wallabies not threatening enough at the moment for you to hate them?
Yeah, look, it's always going to be the Wallabies, no doubt about it. So anything that gives them some encouragement that they think they're improving or progressing, we're happy to squash down pretty hard and early. I've got to admire the reset of the Australian cricket team. I actually, I think the way that unit is just ruthlessly focused on winning is actually quite admirable. But of course, I back our Kiwi cricketers over the Australians all the time. But I'll back any New Zealand sports team. No, that's basically the Wallabies. You've got to make sure that we just never let them get out of where they are. It's great.
I think you're safe for a little while. Prime Minister, thank you so much for making time for me. I really appreciate it, and best of luck. It's a big job.
Thanks, Erin. Great to be with you. Talk soon.
Yeah, he's great value, isn't he? And just a quick plug, we got this released today, a New Zealand edition. It's a new Sky News show that's going to premiere tomorrow at 3:45 Eastern Standard Time on Sky, hosted by Jack Knife. So make sure you look. I think the Prime Minister is his first guest, and he will, of course, do a much more in-depth chat with him.